Hey guys, Panda here, and 2022 has come to an end. Thank God, because honestly, I hated this year. Just wasn't fun. But you know what was good? Some of the games that came out. And today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna rank my favorite games that I've played this year that came out. And my list is completely subjective. You guys will have some varying opinions on some of mine. So drop a comment down below before I even get started on that, and tell me what your guys' favorites are, or list some of your favorites. And and I know there's a lot that I didn't play that you guys might like. So something like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, while it's not a game that I personally enjoy, I can see a lot of you guys liking that as well. Before we begin, though, I'm just going to say, one, if you like this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with other people. That's going to be great. That would really help out this channel. Also, another thing is the bottom two games and the top two games. Those are the only ones that are really ranked. Everything else that I'm going to be talking about is pretty interchangeable. You can put them, the middle ones any which way that you see fit. I really don't have that much of a differing opinion on any one of the other games that I'll be talking about, which is funny with one of them. But yeah, so with that being said, let's talk about some games that came out this year. So the first stinker for me that came out this year is one that just recently came out, and one that I just played on Twitch not too long ago, and that is Callisto Protocol. Man, me and my coworkers were so excited for this game when it was announced, when it was getting shown and all that, because despite the fact that I never played Dead Space, they were saying, all my coworkers and friends that have played Dead Space said, "Ooh, this looks really good. We should check this out." And I was on board for that hype train because I completely missed out on Dead Space. So, what did we get? Nothing that great. It was basically like Dead Space with the combat of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. That's essentially what this final game product became. And it's funny because this year, 2022, was a phenomenal year for horror movies, not so much games. Granted, for me personally, the game started getting better at like the halfway point when you enter the snowy area and they give you the suit. That's when everything started to click a little bit better for me anyway. I can't speak for everyone else, but yeah, if the game gets better at the halfway point, I mean, you lost me. You lost me. The game should have been fun from the start, not from the halfway point forward. Plus, some of the last areas are just so boring and pointless. I just couldn't stand them. Although, if you guys do like this game, my friend over at Frady Cat Gaming is playing this game on his YouTube channel. Make sure to check that out. I'm going to leave a pinned comment down below to his channel so you can check it out. He gets scared by the littlest things in horror games, and it's absolutely hilarious. I recommend checking that out if you want some good laughs from him getting scared absolutely shitless. But yeah, Callisto Protocol, not a fun game for me. Didn't really like it that much. So this next one I'm going to be pretty brief with, but it's also going to be very sacrilegious to a lot of people, and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack in the comments and a lot of downvotes. And my bottom pick after the stinker that was Callisto Protocol is Splatoon 3. I know, there's a lot of hate already for me saying that, but I don't know. For me, it just felt like Splatoon. It really did. It was Splatoon 1, it was Splatoon 3, nothing that much better about it. I played the game for maybe, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, and then put it down. and then just moved on to going back to playing Smash, Mario Kart, going back to playing Resident Evil when the DLC for that dropped, which that I'm not going to count, but that DLC was fucking phenomenal. Yeah, I just... It didn't really appeal to me. Splatoon 3 just didn't really hit it for me. So, will I go back to it? Maybe, but it's probably not going to be anytime soon. So these next 6 games that I'm going to be talking about, you can pretty much place them in any order. They're pretty interchangeable for me anyway. I'm just going to list them off by how I wrote them down in my notes for this. And the first one is going to be the cyberpunk of 2022, and that is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, I mean, you can check out my video that I did. I'll leave another pin. I'll pin another comment, or I'll leave like a annotation video here for my rant about it. But here's my problem: the game is fun when you're not experiencing all the major glitches and errors that the game has. It's fun. I had an absolute blast with Scarlet and Violet. This was the one that I got sucked into the most. I beat the whole story in like a day and a half. The game is just phenomenal, and this is the only mainline game where I've actually completed the entire Pokédex. This is the only one. And we're still waiting on the DLC to drop, because they've already announced... the base game already hinted that there's DLC coming. I mean, I had such a blast with the game. It's fun, but the glitches and the performance and the frame rates, everything like that, it's so horrendous. And the game should not have shipped the way that it did. And that's completely inexcusable. The game is not finished. It's not finished. And we all know that the Pokemon Company has so many freaking deadlines that they have to meet with the anime, the TCG, merch, anything else. We know that they have so many deadlines on all these things because they have to come out in rotation. And I hope to God that the Pokemon Company just realizes this and they try and pump the brakes. We know that's not, even though that's not realistically going to happen, I can only hope that, like, when they start planning up, like, Gen 10, that was actually fun to say, when they start doing Gen 10, I hope they learn to pump the brakes just a little and iron out things. Or at least, if there's new Nintendo Switch hardware, despite the fact that you have games like Crisis on there, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Doom Eternal, Doom 2016, the list goes on, The Witcher, Nier Automata. You have all these different ports in games that run fantastically on the Switch. And yet a first-party Nintendo game can't. That's completely inexcusable. The frame rate is bad, but the gameplay is amazing. I was so enthralled with it. When it wasn't going, like, I don't know, maybe like 12, 15 frames a second max. And I played exclusively in docked mode. I pretty much played the entire game exclusively in docked mode. Had 3 hard crashes, but none of the glaring glitches that Twitter and YouTubers like Yong Yeah or Tyranitar Tube or any other people that would highlight glitches. I never experienced anything like that, but I need to cut this. I need to cut this short because I'm basically just repeating myself at this point. But yeah, game's fantastic, but should not have shipped the way that it did. Also, for those of you who are curious what my final team was, just because I wanted to stream this on Twitch, but I didn't, my final team was, in no particular order, Skeledirge, Palafin, Pawmot, Bombirdier, with its hidden ability. Take a ton, and oh god, what was the other one? Toad Scroll. So that was my team. If you played Scarlet and Violet, drop a comment. Let me see what your team was. Let me know. This next one is one that I just finished on Christmas Eve, right before I had to do all my last minute errands before I went to my grandma's for it. And that is a PSP game that got remastered and put on every console. And that is Crisis Core Reunion Final Fantasy VII. Wow. Despite the fact that I had a PSP, I only had one game for it, and that was Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. I'm kind of glad I didn't get Crisis Core, because this really is the definitive way to play this. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, or excuse me, a Final Fantasy VII fan, and have not played Crisis Core, I recommend that you do so. I know $60 it might be a bit of a tall order right now, even though we have games that are now going to $70, but this game is definitely worth it. Definitely worth it if you have a PS4, PS5. I guess I haven't heard too much about the Switch edition, and I'm pretty sure it's on Xbox as well. But for PlayStation users, I definitely recommend getting this if you have not played Crisis Core. It's so fun. Combat is really great. They fixed up the combat system from the PSP version, where they streamlined spells and materia uses, much like with Kingdom Hearts' shortcut system. So it's kind of something similar to that. Speaking of which, I basically kept like the main elemental materia like at all times for the most part. I had Kiraga, Faraga, Blizzaga, and Thundaga. I pretty much kept those throughout the entire playthrough. This game was absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad I finally got to play Crisis Core and see Zack's story, learn about Genesis, because it seems like Genesis may actually have a role to play in the upcoming Final Fantasy VII Remake universe. And this game just really makes me want to go back and play Final Fantasy VII Remake, and is really getting me excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth when that comes out, either next year or in very early 2024. Very excited for that. I cannot recommend that game enough. The next one is a Switch game that we have been waiting years and years for. It was announced back at the Game Awards of 2017, I believe it was, and we finally got it this year, and that is Bayonetta 3. Bayonetta 3, man, I was having a great time with it. The combat is wacky and over the top. I think probably the train and the yo-yos were probably my favorite weapons to use in that game. The spider web was probably one of my favorite ways to traverse. No, actually, I lied. The train was my favorite way to traverse through each level. Combat is super fun. If you love like the Bayonetta games and games like Devil May Cry, this is an easy recommendation. The only downside to Bayonetta 3 is the frame rate, and it's showing that the Switch is getting really old. Unless if Nintendo decides to do like a Switch Pro that's been rumored for years and years, or they just do another up-res like Switch model. I would love to see how this game goes, or plays just on other hardware, because man, Bayonetta 3 was such a great game. It's a shame that the frame rate is not that great, because there were dips. It wasn't like terrible. It wasn't like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet bad in frame rate for combat, but it's noticeable in a game like this, where it's high over the top action, where each hit really counts. But yeah, Bayonetta 3, fantastic game. Really glad that Bayonetta actually sold very well despite the initial controversy that was going on right around its release. Which, if you're into gaming news like I am, you know exactly what happened. And yeah, it's great to see that Bayonetta 3 is doing solid. That being said, I'm not exactly a fan of the game that they announced at the Game Awards this year, the Bayonetta spin-off, and I guess they announced, or subtly announced, that Bayonetta 4 is going to be on the way. It's just going to be a while before we see that. But yeah, Bayonetta 3, absolutely great game. I can't recommend that enough for Switch owners, and especially Switch owners who like games like, well, Bayonetta and Devil May Cry, and I guess Metal Gear Rising, despite the fact I've never played that. But yeah, if you have a Switch and you like those types of games, get Bayonetta. Next we have the only indie game that I got around to playing this year, but it was one that I was super, super hyped for very obvious reasons if you know me personally, or if you know some of the stuff that I cover on my YouTube channel, as well as the upcoming 3 videos that I have planned after this one. And that is Metal Hellsinger. Man, I love Doom. I love heavy metal. You combine those together, you got a great set. Even at, like, Doom, Metal Hellsinger was so much fun. It's very fast. It's a very easy sit through game. They did set them up for a sequel, and I really hope to God they do it. The game is so much fun. I did a review for this up on the channel, so I'm gonna try and pin that here, maybe somewhere, or pin it in the comments wherever. But check out my review for it because I went more in depth with it as well as I could have. But soundtrack is fantastic. The game is great. Just all around great indie game. If you love games like Doom, if you love heavy metal, why have you not checked this out? The game is fantastic, and it's an easy recommendation, especially for the indie scene. Really recommend. Next is a game that actually won Best Family Game of the Year, and this was I was actually very impressed with how much I loved this game, and that is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I've been a mild Kirby fan. Like, I think it started with like Kirby 64. I haven't played all the Kirby games, but I do enjoy Kirby games from here and there. Like, I have my Nintendo 3DS sitting at my bedside. I'll occasionally go and play some Planet Robobot every so often, but yeah, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, it was such a charming game. It was so much fun. And the upgrades, or the powers that Kirby gets in this game are really good, especially Gun Kirby. They give him a gun in a Nintendo game. A little pink puffball with a gun. I love it. It was so great. The game is really charming. It was super fun. Like, the game wasn't hard by any stretch of the imagination, especially considering one game that I will be talking about towards the end of this video. But after what happened with February, man, that Kirby was a nice, needed, like, little brainwash. That's just, I say this positively, it's dumbed down in the best way possible. It's just super fun. It's super fun, super enjoyable, and I had an absolute blast playing that game. If you have if you're a Switch owner and you haven't picked up Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I recommend doing it. It's really good. Also, make sure that you upgrade to Dragon Kirby. That is the most broken ability in the game. And now for the last game that can be interchangeable for however we see fit for those 6 games that I talked about earlier. This next one, man, I was hooked. So we're going back to the Pokemon world, and we're going to be talking about Pokemon Legends Arceus. Good God, this game was so addictive. I picked this up from Target when I got off work. Was playing from, I think, like maybe 2:30 in the afternoon up until midnight. This game was super addictive. They made it super fun. If you have not played this game, the tutorial section, like the first 3 hours, is super slow. But once you're done with that, it just skyrockets so much. Like even parts of the beginning were actually really fun when they let you just run out into the open area and you can just catch like wormholes and weasels and geodudes. When you can catch all of them as often as you want, and when they give you like ride Pokemon, the game is just so fun. I'm so glad that the Pokemon Company like made like a really, really good quote unquote side game and just changed up the formula in such a dramatic way. There are elements in Arceus that I wish they implemented into Scarlet and Violet, but that's a whole different discussion. But yeah, easily one of the best games I've played this year. It was super, super fun. If you're a Pokemon fan, I can't recommend it enough. I'm also very excited for when Pokemon Home gets integrated into Pokemon Scarlet so I can use Hisuian mons in playthroughs, because good God, some of them are going to be broken, like Ursaluna, for example. Ursaluna is just going to be a massive force in the competitive scene, but I'm getting sidetracked. Just, oh my God, the game was so much fun, and fighting Arceus was amazing. This was the proper way to fight and catch Arceus. It was such a blast. And much like I did for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, here's my team of who I used in Pokemon Legends Arceus. In no particular order: Hisuian Zoroark, Samurott, Hisuian form, Infernape, Togekiss, Magnezone, and Garchomp. That was my team, and let me know in the comments who you used for your Hisuian travels. And now we get to the two big top dogs of 2022, and you know exactly what games they were, because there's a reason why there were two games at the Game Awards that were talked about so heavily. And each one of them are my game of the years, but for completely different reasons. So let's start with probably the easiest one that I can talk about, God of War Ragnarok. When they initially said that God of War Ragnarok was the Norse mythology setting was going to be just 2 parts, I was very skeptical. But they pulled it off. And just because I'm not going to say what happens, just because this game is still relatively new. It's been like a little over a month old. We're almost at the 2-month mark. But man, when a certain point happens in the story that leads into Ragnarok actually happening, it was hard. It was heart punching. It was gut wrenching. That hit hard, and I'm not going to show what it is, but yeah, it was a really hard scene, especially considering the circumstances that happened with that scene. But I think I view the same way that God of War Ragnarok is kind of the same way as Doom Eternal is to Doom 2016. It's a great game. They just refine. Doom 2016 is great, but Doom Eternal refined the combat system, and I feel that's the same way with God of War Ragnarok. The game, they even give you the Blades of Chaos like right from the start. That's great. That was absolutely great. So you could build everything up, and yeah, they introduced another weapon. I think about the start of at the start of the last third mark, they do that. It was it, but it opens up a whole nother combat system, way to traverse places. Quest lines are great. The story was fantastic. The visuals, fucking phenomenal. I mean, this game was it was perfection. This is the only game that's out right now that it is completely worth the $70 price tag that Sony has been doing for their first-party games. Absolutely worth it. Minor nitpick. I think the only thing that I will say in terms of the Game Awards, I don't think God of War Ragnarok should have won Best Music. It deserved every other award, and then some. It definitely deserved them all, but not Best Score. But that's a completely different tangent. That's like the only only negative thing I can say. The music is great, but it's compared to what it was put up against, it wasn't worth. It shouldn't have won. But yeah, God of War Ragnarok absolutely can't sing its praises enough. Absolutely terrific game. Super, super deserved it. Super, super worth your time. And now the final game of 2022, what I consider one of the best games of the year. Easy. And that is, of course, Elden Ring. I'm not even a Soulsborne fan, and I fell in love with Elden Ring. This was the longest game that I stuck to. Basically, everything that came out after Elden Ring was just... No, you're done. Elden Ring just took up way too much of my time. Although, granted, I have not gone back to the game since I came back from Baltimore in, like, June. I left for Memorial Day weekend. Haven't gone back to Elden Ring since. But the game is still just... what can you say? When you step out of, like, the tutorial section of it, it is like the Breath of the Wild plateau moment. It is easily that. So I stuck with a mage outfit because I've heard from like reviewers and people who have played like Souls games before that mage is going to be the most broken set, and it was. But I had to learn all of that stuff, of course. If you guys caught all my Twitch playthroughs when that game was out from about half of February up until like the end of May. If you caught all my Twitch playthroughs of that, you'll see that I wasn't that great on camera. But I had such a blast with Elden Ring. It was easily one of the best games I've ever played, bar none. And it really is making me want to play like Bloodborne. I have that loaded up on my PS5. I know I need to go and check that out. But yeah, Elden Ring. If you haven't played it, what's wrong with you? This is even coming from someone who's not even a Soulsborne fan. It's a masterpiece. It was phenomenal. It was like the best game this year, and you need to play it. All right, so that's my list for games that I played this year and kind of a ranking of games that I played this year. What was your favorite game this year? What was your least favorite? What would you rank these? What were some games that I missed? Drop a comment down below and let me know. And while you're at it, make sure to like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me everywhere else, which is Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And I will see you guys in 2023. Later, Gators.